Alright, hello everyone. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to properly hydro dip your controller. So if you ever wondered, wow, this controller is really bland, I wish it looked better, I'm going to teach you how to do that. So the first step is to grab yourself a small screwdriver and screw all the screws, and then make sure to have some sort of bowl lying around so you don't lose the screws, so you can put your controller back together. Okay, so apparently my phone does not want to record in 4K for more than 5 minutes. So I'm going to have to go over how to take apart your controller again. So essentially, what happened was there were two screws right there and right there. They were smaller than the rest. And so you essentially unscrewed them, and then it came off from this part. And essentially, these two red pieces that are your triggers were clipped on by this clip and this clip. And the way you undo the clips is you take your screwdriver and you gently press on it until it pops out. Same thing for these four. And then this basically popped out, and there's also a battery warning light. So then the next part is to take your script out pad or sandpaper, basically scrub out a lot. What this is doing is it's removing a thin layer of protectant that you get from all plastics from the store. Basically the protectant is to prevent from like dirt, dust, or grime, or anything like that, to prevent it from sticking too hard. But actually, that list includes spray paint. Basically, you want to make sure that you remove the protectant so the spray paint sticks. I can see our reflections, kind of, in this half of the grip, but in this, it's very, very blurry. So that's what you're going for. You should see, it should look like it has a bunch of tiny lines all over the entire thing. That's what you're going. So this is probably a good size. You can probably tell that this is my hydro dipping bucket. And then what you're looking for is room temperature water. One important thing, wear a glove. This is like a blue plastic surgery glove type thing. Because whenever you're hydro dipping, you're gonna have to put your hand into the spray paint. And, well, unless you like spray paint on your hand, you're probably going to want a glove. Okay, so now it's time to start hydro dipping. So once you've picked out your colors, unfortunately, I don't have any red. Well, I'm out of red. So essentially what you want to do, you want to shake it up really well. For about a couple minutes. I've already shook these up. So then you want to pick up your piece, make sure you have a glove on. This is called hydro dipping. Essentially what you do is you spray it under the water and then make a bunch of rings. And then it'll all come to the middle, and then you essentially find a good place to grip your controller. Is you do it at about a 45-degree angle, and then you slowly dip it into the paint. And then once it's fully submerged, circle so that way do this, that way no paint gets up whenever you bring it up. And then looks really neat. So then put it on your put it on a bag so that way it doesn't get any spray paint. And then what you want to do is swirl the old paint, because not all the paint that was on it is going to get on it. And then this is why you want to wear a glove, because this would take days to come off, and I know from experience. Alright, and then you do that for the next piece and the next piece. So here we have the bottom of the, and then you do the same thing. Alright, I could use a little bit more purple. Okay. This is kind of hard because I have to make sure that I don't drop my phone. So then this is what it looks like. Pretty cool, honestly. And then I'm aiming for that Power A logo to be somewhere in the middle of that. And then again, 45-degree angle, very slow. Just dip it. Swirl it around so nothing comes up. Beautiful. Come on, focus. There we go. And then make sure to set down paint facing up so it dries well. And then last piece. Essentially what you want to do is, I swear my phone's gonna fall in and I'm gonna hydro-dip phone. Obviously, don't get spray paint on your clothes, because, that sounds like a bad idea. Okay. Beautiful. Then take the last piece, which is this area. And I'm thinking, those two haven't had a lot of purple, so we're going to go for a lot of purple. So somewhere in the middle where that big blob of purple is where we're going to go. Alright, that's good. And then essentially what you want to do is you want to go put these out in a nice sunny spot for them to dry. And then, yeah. Once they're dry, you need to hit it with clear coat. So that way your design stays for longer. And then maybe, since this is an object that I'm probably going to be using almost every single day, I would recommend putting 2 layers. This should take about 3.5 hours to dry, maybe 4 or 5. So I'd give it at least 4. And then hit it with clear coat, give the clear coat 3 hours to dry, and then hit it with another clear coat. Yeah. The controller has dried over the course of multiple days. You should have given the clear coat 24 hours to dry completely. You can see it looks really good. I don't know if you can see that, because right now there's a glare coming from the left. And so now it's time for reassembly. So obviously the first thing you're going to want to do is, it's basically a backwards process. So you're going to want to come to your bowl and pick out the different things. So the bus controller goes there. This is the square, and notice how there's 3 lines coming from the square. That means that the square can only go in one specific spot and one specific orientation. And then the B button, same thing, can only go in one spot, one specific orientation. And then you just take this part, just upside down. Actually, I guess the first thing to do would be to put your controller or your buttons back where they were. So you essentially just line them up, make sure you've got the right on the right and the left on the left. And then those little clips will essentially hold them in place. Again, being very careful because you don't want this to break. And then slide the two halves back together, being very careful to make sure that you are putting them in the right place. Okay, that looks like it's good. And then before you put it back, you're going to want to take your two tiny screws and then screw them back into the two holes that they came from. And again, this might not go for your controller because you might have a different controller, or you might have a completely different console. This could go for PlayStation, Xbox, anything really. So just screw in the screws. Make sure not to go too tight. But good enough so that way it won't slip out. And again with the other screw, just in case you're following. Alright. Those screws are screwed in. A little bit more on this one. Okay. Essentially, you just drop it in. Making sure to line everything up. If it doesn't sit flush, it means something has gone wrong. And then make sure that all the clips that were originally holding this in place, see there's one and there's one, make sure that those are clipped. So your controller shouldn't move around. If I remember correctly, there were two screws right there and right there. Okay, that screw's now firmly in place. Now what you want to do is take your bottom half, press it on nice and firmly. Make sure that everything's aligning correctly. Don't you just love it whenever your phone doesn't let you do 4K 60 FPS at for only more than 5 minutes. Because it's on mine, it keeps on cutting off at 5 minutes. So essentially, you want to make sure that everything's aligned. Make sure that your battery terminals don't get smushed, because those are pretty important. And so then what I like to do is go get two batteries. Also, make sure that all the buttons feel right. So then put your battery in, and then go to your Switch or whatever console you're using. Okay, so then essentially what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your newly painted controller, make sure that it connects. Okay, it looks like it does. So then go over to Settings, Controllers and Sensors, and then Test Input Device. Test controller buttons, and then essentially you're going to want to go through every single button, and it looks like we have properly hydro-dipped our controller without breaking anything. Okay, so now that we've tested that all the buttons still function correctly, you're essentially going to want to take out your batteries and then put in the rest of your screws. You have an amazing, hydro-dipped, beautiful controller.